What is one thing that instantly makes you think this person has no manners? Littering. When I was a kid in the 80s, I was driving with a neighbor and I chucked a piece of trash out the window. She immediately pulled over and made me get out and pick it up. Lesson learned. Hung out with a coworker once and he threw all his garbage out the window of his car onto the street. Never hung out with him again. I saw someone throwing trash out the car in front of me. Who does this? Why would anyone think that's okay? When grocery shoppers leave their carts in the middle of the aisle instead of pulling over. I work at a grocery store, and because of COVID we have arrows to point the direction you're supposed to go with your cart. Today an old couple crashed into someone else because they were going the wrong way. Today, my U-boat, a large cart for stocking shelves, was in the middle of the aisle, but parallel so people could easily go by, about 1 to 1, 5 meter each side of my cart. The man in the couple started cussing at me after I politely asked them to follow the arrows once they leave the aisle. He went to grab something from the shelf that was not even close to my U-boat. The man angrily said, "Your cart's in the effing way. Effing stupid idiot." I said, "Please, don't speak that way to me, sir," and he walked away mumbling stuff under his breath. Called my manager and had him stand up for me. The man talked with my manager and walked away seconds after because he was obviously in the wrong. Like I'm just doing my frickin' job. No need to be so vile and rude. When they walk into an elevator before you have a chance to get off. Same W buses and subways. Some girl did this in a building I was in once, and I said, "You know it's polite to wait for people to get off before you barge on," and she just screams, "I know." Blasting music on the bus. Absolute twats. Yeah, absolutely. I hate those kind of people. No one wants to listen to your chisty music, especially on a bus on the way to work or something. People who leave their litter and uneaten food all over fast food restaurant tables and the floor area. Edit. Having read every response to my post, I now clearly understand that social norms differ greatly. Thank you for the insight. And at the movies and sporting events. Why do otherwise polite people think they can just leave their trash behind them at those 3 places? Not saying thank you when someone buys you dinner or sends you a gift or anything. Showing gratitude is good for everyone involved. Bruh, who are you buying dinners or sending gifts who is not replying with at least thank you? Being an a-hole to the waiter or waitress. My stepmom is the worst at this and usually tips like $2 regardless of cost, even with 4 people at a nice restaurant. I try to throw a 5 or 10 on the table after she leaves. It's so embarrassing in all aspects. People that don't put their weights away at the gym. God, this pisses me off so much. Not everyone has the same lifting routine as you, Chad. I threw my back out pretty badly, and the free weight machines were the only ones that didn't hurt me for some reason. Trying to lift a 20kg weight from heights above your waist with cooked spaghetti for a back is painful. I had to ask someone to help me move weights so I could use the machine once. So embarrassing. Parents who let their children run rampant anywhere. I've seen parents watch as their kid pops their fingers through every package of meat at the grocery store and do nothing. Parents who let their kids kick a stranger's shoe or other belongings, letting the kids spit on windows and rub it with their hands. Letting them run around the store, playing with anything and everything, and leaving a mess for others to clean, and the parents literally just ignore it. I never understood that. They really are your obligation, not the store associate who's unlucky enough to be working the shift you happen to stroll in during. Be a parent. Bad kids can turn into chisty people. Some parents think they can just use store or restaurant employees as free babysitting. When I worked at McDonald's, we once had this 5 to 6-year-old running around the restaurant outside of the playroom. Not an uncommon occurrence, unfortunately. It was really busy that day, so even though I couldn't tell who, I thought she belonged to someone. So we ignored it until she tried to come in the kitchen. So I took her hand and asked her to show me where her parents were. She says mom is at the mall. She left me here to play until she gets back. My manager said she was going to call the police and report child abandonment. My shift finished before I could see the resolution, though. Duck people like this. Parent your own damn kids. People who click their fingers at waiting or bar staff. I have been working in bars/restaurants for most of my adult life now, and I'm loving every second of it. But when this happens, I honestly have to contain myself to not burn their house down. Treat people the way you want to be treated. Period. When they turn everything into a one-up contest. You think you have it bad? I know a guy who's way worse. Yelling at retail workers. Most recently about wearing masks or putting hand sanitizer on. It takes little to no effort and people lose their minds over it. Some people just hate being told what to do or doing the same thing as everyone else. There's people who refuse to drink water because too many health nuts and doctors told them it's good for you. People who act mean towards others for apparently no reason. I got this friend who always talks down to younger people, and I'm like, you need to gain people's respect. Don't take it for granted. That just makes me think they are a bad person, not one without manners. I know people who are well mannered and sociable who say or do incredibly mean-natured things. I really despise passive-aggressive cruelty. I believe it's something people get away with far too easily. Talking over people. If someone is talking stfu and listen, when they're finished you can tell your chisty story, not halfway through someone else's. Edit. While my inbox is being destroyed from orbit, I've learned that people with ADHD can't help it, and we should be a little more understanding when they butt into conversations. I've also learned some people are cock and balls and never shut up. Interrupting these people is okay, unless they also have ADHD, in which case refer to the previous point. I'm staying with my mom right now, and she's always doing this to her husband. I feel so bad for him. Apartment neighbors who slam their doors as hard as they can. Damn, my last apartment had heavy doors that would forcefully close shut on their own. I'd walk in, forget that the damn door is about slam shut with the power of thunder, and sprint back trying to catch it and slow it down. I usually made it, but I know I woke some people up with that thunderstorm of a door when I didn't catch it. Inviting everyone in the friend group to an event and excluding just one friend, then proceeding to talk about how much fun they're going to have at said event in front of the person that was purposely excluded in front of everybody. Happened today and thought it was pretty rude. Edit. Thank you for the award. Additional info. This did not happen to me. And second, we are not in high school. We are in our late 20s/early 30s, which makes the situation even more upsetting. Been there. I was in high school when someone who I would have at the time considered a friend was throwing a small get together. Well, I wasn't invited and was instead asked to babysit for my at the time best friend's little brother while he was at this gathering. Chisty feels. Unsurprisingly, I have not seen any of those people since high school and am glad for it. Overstaying your welcome or inviting yourself to things. I had a friend who wouldn't take no for an answer. Like, get the hint. It's midnight and yeah, I've been here all day. Edit. To explain a bit more, I'm not talking about someone who just doesn't get hints because they are oblivious. I'm talking about someone who will make excuses and guilt trip their way into staying even after clear reminders that they need to leave soon. Or even just saying to them it's time for them to get out. If you don't get hints, that's totally okay, as long as you understand when someone asks you to leave. I stand up, yawn and say, well, you must be tired. I've kept you here too late. I'll let you get home now, while getting their coat, if weather appropriate. Not saying thank you to stuff like someone holding a door open for them, or a waiter/waitress refilling their drink. I give a faint smile and a little nod to people holding the door for me. I do the same to people I hold the door for, not expecting an audible thank you. When you offer your time and money to drive someone, and they don't thank you for the ride. When you give someone a ride, and they leave their empty soda can, or coffee cup in your cup holder. People who cut their nails on public transportation. Do your grooming at home. I once was on a plane, across the aisle from an nun in full regalia, who cut her toenails right there. So I have a roommate who I'm entirely convinced has absolutely no manners whatsoever. For context, I live in the barracks, so I have no choice but to live with this guy. I have 1.5 million stories about this guy, but I guess I'll start with the basics. Doesn't clean up after himself and refuses to help clean, even if there's a guest in someone else's home. Chain smoke/vapes in people's cars. Flick sash out the window, but everyone knows that literally will just kick it back into the Jeep. tries to constantly teach people things, and will talk your ear off and basically just dominate the conversation. No listening or allowing for a different perspective. Methodica literally introduced himself to me as the smartest man in any room. He plays music and sings in the shower at 4, 5, 6 in the morning, and will take 45+ minute showers, 20 minutes to sit on the toilet and 25 to have his concert. The last straw for me was when I came home on leave and saw his flashlight sitting out in the common area table. We've stopped inviting him to places. He sits in his room alone playing Xbox all day because I'm not responsible for teaching a 21-year-old child basic manners. It's not happening. I had the best roommate when I was in the barracks. Dude was weird as duck, but we both cleaned, both chipped in on stuff we needed for the room. Used headphones, was considerate, never really talked to me. We both would offer the other some food when we ordered something. Neither of us ever really knew the other was even there. It was great. People who don't use turn signals just drives me crazy. I can't even fully understand why this makes me so angry. I'm a generally calm person. I'm not hot-headed at all. But when someone doesn't use a turn signal, my blood boils so fast it's insane. I think in my mind if you can't operate the most basic function of your vehicle mandated by the law, then you have no business driving at all. When you're right behind them and they let a door slam in your face instead of holding it for you. I accidentally did this to somebody yesterday. Didn't realize they were behind me and I felt bad. People who don't say anything when they walk up to my desk and I say, "How can I help you?" It's rude and takes literally 5 seconds to speak to me instead of shoving a paper in my face. I stand there politely and wait for them to wrap up their train of thought and remove their headphones, then address them. I think it depends on the workspace. People who chew with their mouth open. It's disgusting and drives me ducking crazy. My father open mouth chews. As a child it bothered me so much that I'd plug my ears at the table and refuse to eat. My parents' solution was to exaggerate it and eat even more noisily, and I'd have to go hungry if I chose to plug to my ears rather than eat, so I'd go without dinner quite often. If anything, it only made me hate the sound more. When you're having a nice chat with someone and they start saying things that don't seem to make sense to you. Then you realize they just answered a call on their @$% Bluetooth phone ear thingy and are not even talking to you anymore. Duck, I've had this happen. Also when I'm telling a story or something and I pause after getting no feedback and I see the person staring at their phone. Cutting in line. This old lady tried to skip me in line. Seemed easy for her as I was social distancing. And I gave her the look. She then silently proceeds to walk over to the cashier to ask if she can cut in line. The laughs from all of us waiting in line proceeded as she was denied via a confused "no you may not." Plus a WTF look from the cashier context. This was yesterday in countryside Japan. Coughing or sneezing without covering your mouth. I had a customer in the shop I work in who pulled his mask down to cough. Arguing with a worker about expired coupons. Really, arguing with a worker about anything. It's not like those folks have any real power and all you're doing is making their lives harder. Slow walkers taking up the entire sidewalk. Groups taking up the entire path and refusing to move till you make your presence and intention to par absolutely clear. When people hack up a big phlegm and spit on the sidewalk. Edit. I've traveled abroad but lived in the States most of my life. I hadn't considered what a huge cultural difference it is. I suppose the American obsession with personal hygiene is evident. Oh my god, anytime I see or hear this, I start to dry heave. People who let their kids watch annoying YouTube videos in public places without headphones. Pure trash. Also kids playing trash mobile games with the same annoying tune. Standing in the middle of the aisle at a grocery store, not returning the cart. Edit. Formatting. I live in an area where supermarkets are close to public transportation. Another one that irks me is people who push the cart out of the car park bounds all the way to the bus interchange and leave it there. Literally saw this today, and the strong winds had blown the cart onto its side and on the road. People who let their kids run around in a movie theater, kick the back of your seat repeatedly, and hang on you. idiots with children, is why I now only go to the cinema at the 12 or 1 AM sessions anymore. Last time I went in the evening I had a full family sitting behind me, 3 kids making noise, playing on their phone, jumping on the seats, kicking my seat, fighting each other, crawling, etc. I asked the parents if they could keep their children under control and quiet, since it is a movie and I couldn't even understand the dialogue, and they had the balls to say I was being rude and uneducated. Those Philistines. And it's always the same type of people that do this edit. And to drive the point further, it wasn't even a movie for kids. I'd understand if Finding Nemo was full of kids and wasn't a quiet room, but a movie for grown-ups? Leaving their rubbish at a fast food restaurant. Most offenders are parents who think it's their day off, or teenagers that have learned this behavior from said parents. Speaking over others. The worst. Snapping fingers at someone. Oh, my sister had a middle school teacher who did this so much, the entire class was annoyed with him for it. He was cool otherwise. Having a mask on and over your chin, but not your face and nose. People who drive the wrong way down a one-way row in a parking lot. My brother told me about someone he saw in a shop wearing a full-on gas mask, only to rip it off, cough violently all over the produce, and put it back on. Not saying please or thank you. When the waiter refills all the drinks and nobody says thank you, or if they can't reach your cup and you don't help them out. When they speak extremely loudly in public. I dated a guy in college who would do this, although he did it while sober. One time a lady who was sitting next to us at a restaurant asked him to stop speaking so loudly, which was mortifying. It would get progressively louder and louder the more he drank. He was also big on being an a-hole to waiters/waitresses, and was a lousy tipper. No matter how big the bill was, he would never tip above $2. Other men we date when we're young and stupid. Interrupting mid-sentence. I know I'm guilty at times. It makes me feel like trash. Same here. I ask myself always, why did I do that? I hate it myself. People who talk down to employees in the service industry, e.g. those who work in retail or at low positions in an office, and those who ignore cleaning employees. It is free to say hello/good morning, but by ignoring them, you are belittling them. Who you meet on the way up will remember how you treated them on your way down. Also loud phone conversations, especially private ones when amongst others. Also inappropriate PDA in public places like restaurants or cafes. I'm not your audience. Please stop humping each other's. A step further, I will never understand why the duck people think it's okay to have conversations on speakerphone when they're in public. Sir, you keep loudly bragging to the prostitute on the other end that you have an iPhone 11 Pro maximum with 12.5 terabytes of storage, so I know you can also afford some goddamn AirPods to go with it, you absolute wingwan. People whose only conversation style is monologue. In their defense, some people have lived a very isolated and or sheltered life and have no idea how to talk to other people. Source, myself. If anyone has any idea on how to fix, I'll happily take suggestions. When dog owners don't pick up after their dogs. What drives me even more nuts are the people who pick up the poop in a nice little bag, tie a knot in the top, and deposit it back on the ground. How does this make sense? Feeling entitled to other people's things. I worked with this girl that would take home the unopened food/snacks that other people brought to the work potluck. It was so weird cause she wouldn't even ask, and her reasoning was that it was meant for everyone at the potluck, so she would call dibs on it. It's currently 10 PM and my parents have decided that watching a movie at maximum volume with their soundbar seemingly set to maximum bay is an okay thing to do in an apartment that has 2 families on either side, one of which has a 1-year-old, so I'd say that you should try to get a universal remote, hide somewhere within range, and keep turning off the TV when they try to turn it back on. They'll think something is wrong with it. The next morning, when they bring it up, tell them that the maximum volume may be tripping the switch. Bada bing, bada boom. Pulling their mask down in public to cough/sneeze/talk or rub their nose with their hand. Worst case they touch something like a door or try to shake your hand. Pulling it down to sneeze. Daduck. Wearing shoes in bed might be more of a cultural thing though. I don't know any culture where it's normal to wear shoes in bed. If you wear shoes in bed, that mostly defeats the point of shoes. When you meet someone new and they genuinely say OMG I'm a total prick, I'm the worst, I always think to myself they spared me the time to learn that. Some people will announce they have no manners. One of my bosses did this. He said you will not like working with me. I'm not a nice person. Then a coworker said to me once, if you still like me in a month I'm not doing something right. Both complete and total assholes. When people fart and burp loudly at the table and don't even apologize. Although the correct thing to do with farts is to ignore it, according to me's manners. Basically it's such a rude noise that the polite thing to do is ignore it. If they commit genocide, now I think that's okay. My roommate 1. Doesn't clean up after himself in the kitchen. 2. His car hasn't been washed in a decade. 3. Plays music/video games so loud like no one else is home. 4. Doesn't know how to have an adult conversation at 33. 5. Took over pantry and refrigerator leaving no space for anyone else. 6. Slept in the guest room since his bed wasn't a bed and said his GF was a guest therefore okay. 7. Leaves lights on. 8. Cannot bring trash cans in when the first home. 9. Is the asshole that fails the shopping cart test. And that's just one person lol. I mean, #2 doesn't seem that rude, but I'm with you on the rest. Not putting their cart back in a cart corral at Costco. Whole savages. Actually, the mask requirement has gotten rid of some of them. People who don't clear their table after eating at a restaurant. I know there's people employed in the restaurant to clean it, but I hate it when people don't even at least clean a spill they made or put a tissue in a bin. It's just really annoying. It's the worst at fast food places when they just get up and leave without cleaning after themselves. Talking while chewing food. Or that one person who'll ask you a question right after taking a bite of steak, knowing full well you won't answer until you're done chewing the steak. This is the comment that made me want to post my comment on this post, and now I'm all riled up from typing it out. Equals someone asking me a question as soon as I start taking a gulp of my drink and then asking me again within 1 second because I didn't answer right away while they're watching me pointedly with an exaggerated face while they're staring at me physically chugging my drink. Wait a second, Rick. Today at a funeral when my father-in-law showed up in a Trump t-shirt and a Trump hat. At a funeral. My extended family will wear sweatpants to funerals without batting an eye. I've made it super clear that sweatpants are not acceptable attire at my wedding/funeral/ducking anything. Wear your loungewear at home. People who speak loud while eating with their mouth open in a public place. When I'm out with a friend and we meet someone they know but I don't, and that person makes no effort to introduce themselves to me or include me in the conversation. Like, I know I'm the designated less hot friend, but you don't have to remind me of it. My ex didn't introduce me when we by chance ran into her ex. Took it as an immediate red flag and ended the relationship immediately. Just kidding. Ignored the obvious red flag amongst many others. Married her. Wasted 7 years. Got divorced. Now remarried to the love of my life. When they don't tuck in their chair after getting up. So rude. I'll push in other people's chairs, it bugs me so much. If they throw cash on the counter instead of handing it to the cashier. Anything that looks like they think they are way more important than anyone else. Not pausing what you're doing or when you can to meet someone, or straight up not acknowledging someone. I remember introducing my best friend from high school to the new friends I made in college and they wouldn't pause their movie to meet her and just sort of looked over and rolled their eyes when I tried to introduce her. The blokes came over to say hi and I could hear the girls complain we were interrupting their movie. It won't surprise anyone to learn that my friend is very pretty and personable. I basically turned to her and said, guess they're intimidated by you. Similarly, people making plans that clearly could include someone in front of them, but not inviting them is incredibly rude, and I can't believe how many people F this up. Give an excuse, invite them like a big boy, or wait to make your plans in private. Especially if it's more than a row. Is Saturday still good? You can sod off. If you're over 14 you can get your chiz together enough to show enough social grace to minimize people feeling excluded. I thought my coworkers were doing the plans thing, and I was slightly disappointed that what seemed like at least half my coworkers were chatting about something fun that I wasn't invited to. Turns out they were talking about the company holiday party, and I didn't even hear about it until someone asked me the day before if I was going, and I said going to what? Communication was terrible there. When someone is consistently late. No, running late is not a part of your personality, you're just an a-hole. This is a culture thing. Where I'm from, Venezuela, being 15 to 20 minutes late is just what everybody does. No idea why. Meeting times are more of a theory than an absolute. Yeah, go bonkers. It drives me nuts now that I have been in the States for a few years, honestly. Instead of apologizing they retort with I'm sorry you feel this way. Aka the non-apology apology. I have never known anybody who had even an ounce of honesty or decency ever tell anyone, I'm sorry you feel that way. Courts should automatically rule it as fraud. My boyfriend ate my calamari. We went to a restaurant together, and he ordered a huge fish pasta dish, but I only wanted a starter, and he ducking ate half of it. He ate my calamari. Dastard. Too many to list. Chewing with an open mouth. Talking with food in their mouth. Not picking up their dog's poop. Not returning shopping carts to the store or corral. Littering. Being loud for no reason. I can hear my nearest neighbor an acre away talking on her phone. Adam and her had a falling out yesterday. So sad. New for 2020. Not wearing a face mask. When someone is right in front of you / makes eye contact with you while opening a door and lets it close right in front of you as opposed to keeping it open for the 2 extra seconds. Spitting. Anywhere. If I can feel / hear your car coming before I see it, you're an a-hole. End of store. The base. Whatever in my neighbor's car and their chisgy friends' cars. I can feel it shaking my house from across the street. It's not cool to have it so ridiculously loud that I can feel your music, even if I can't hear it. It just makes me hate you. I have a neighbor with a loud engine. He leaves for work early in the AM. Why do I know this? BC he revs his engine like an a-hole. Spitting. So disgusting. There was a girl at my old work who most nearly everyone disliked. She had a rouse complaint made against her for bullying, so go figure. And on her birthday once a guy in her team gave her a present. Remember her first response when given the present was to take out her phone, take a picture and post it to whatever poor platform was responsible for hosting her vapichize, and then thank the guy. Was pretty embarrassing too. That instilled need to share on social media was more urgent to her than to thank the actual person sat opposite from her. Made total sense considering the rest of her character. Sucking up to wealthy people and ignoring those who aren't. The loud muffler blaring in the middle of a quiet neighborhood. People who don't say thank you when you give them something. If they aren't wearing a mask. Eating the majority of the 4-person Ziggy Piggy ice cream mountain we ordered while gripping his spoon overhand and failing to wipe his mouth clean at any point. This is oddly specific. People who talk about themselves a lot tend to be rude in every other way. Not true. Some people have mental situations in which their social skills are compromised, but that doesn't make them malicious or bad people. Source: me. Not making the bed or folding blankets after sleeping in a guest room of friends / family. I would actually rather they didn't. It's easier to wash everything when it's unmade. If you are rude to a waiter / waitress / service workers in my presence, I will do everything in my power to never associate with you again. Oh my, you watched until the end? That's fucking awesome, dude. Thanks for watching.